Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. I'm very excited today to come to you with another shelf spotlight. It's been a while since I've done Shelf Spotlight. I think I skipped July, but Shelf Spotlight is a series that I've been doing for quite a while on my channel where I take a different type of book and tell you about all the books on my shelves that match that. I think in June I did yellow books. I've done books based on theme, books based on their covers, books based on all kinds of different things. And today we're going to talk about one of my buzzwords, the word orphan. All of these books have the word orphan in the title. I have 3 that I've read and 8 that I haven't. So I have 11 books to talk about with you today. Let's just jump right in. I will start with the 3 books that I've finished, that I've read, that have stayed on my shelves, that have the word orphan. I may have read other books that have the word orphan in them, but I don't have them on my shelves anymore, from what I can tell. I did go through Goodreads and it helped me pick the ones that I have. I think we'll see when we get to the ones that I haven't read that a lot of them are going to be World War II books, but only one of the ones that I've read was World War II. The other 2 take place in the United States and kind of have a tie-in as well. The first one is Orphan Train by Christina Baker Klein. I think this is probably one of the most popular books in this stack. A lot of people have read this. It takes place, like I said, in America. Between 1854 and 1929, so-called orphan trains ran regularly from the cities of the East Coast to the farmlands of the Midwest, carrying thousands of abandoned children whose fates would be determined by pure luck. Would they be adopted by a kind and loving family? Would they be put to work on a farm? Would they be put in with an awful family? All of those things happened. Would they be able to find a family at all? This tells the story of one young girl, an Irish immigrant, Vivian Daly, and it tells her story as a young girl. And then we have a present day timeline of a teenager doing some community service and helping an elderly widow clean out her attic. And obviously there's a connection between these 2 stories. I loved this story. I read it a really long time ago, before BookTube days, but it stuck with me enough. The emotions of it as even more than the story of it, but it stuck with me enough that I wanted to keep it on my shelves. Absolutely loved that one. Just earlier this year, was it earlier this year or towards the end of last year, I read The Orphan Collector by Ellen Marie Wiseman. This is a book that I did as a book club book with my Patreon community, and we really enjoyed this one. I did, for sure. I can't speak for everybody else, but it seemed like we all kind of enjoyed this one a lot. This one takes place around the time of the Spanish flu in Philadelphia. And we follow Pia, who's in a family of German immigrants, and she lives in this immigrant community. Pia's mom gets really sick and passes away, and Pia is left to take care of her twin baby brothers. She has been in the house. The mom dies like right there in the house. They don't go out. They're not allowed to go out. She's been trapped in this house with her mom, who's passed away, in the other room, and her baby brothers, and they run out of food. They have nothing. And she knows in order for them to even have a chance at living, she's got to go try to find food for them. She finds a way to try to keep them as safe as she can while she runs out. Obviously, things happen. She gets sick while she's out, and she cannot return to her brothers. Another woman who's horrible, grieving the loss of her own infant son, has a lot of prejudice against immigrants. When she tried to take her sick child to the hospital, the front of the hospital was flooded with people, and she just got really frustrated that she didn't get preference over some of these immigrant families, and she just had a lot of prejudice in her heart. She had been keeping an eye on Pia's and her family in particular. I don't remember why, but when she sees that Pia runs out of the house, she knows there's babies in there, and she sneaks her way into that house. Like, it just becomes awful. Pia gets really sick while she's out looking for food, ends up being taken to an orphanage. Nobody believes her or will not listen to her about her siblings, and it's just awful. The whole story is just awful. In particular, this other woman, I forget her name, Bernice was awful. But the writing was beautiful. It was such a good story. I can't talk this long about all of them. Well, I won't. I've only read 3 of them. They're the only ones that I can speak about in depth. But yeah, I highly recommend this book and Ellen Marie Wiseman. I've read a couple books by her now. Loved all of them. So definitely would recommend that one. And then we have The Orphan's Tale by Pam Jenoff. Pam Jenoff loves a World War II story. I think all of her books take place around World War II. This one is a little different though, because we kind of follow a circus. And these two women that get connected to the circus, Noah is 16 years old, had become pregnant by a Nazi soldier and ends up joining up with this circus and gets taken under the wing of Astrid, not really by choice, but learns to become an aerialist, trapeze artist, which is what Astrid does, and she's phenomenal at it. But I really did enjoy this one as well. I loved the audiobook of this. I liked that twist on things. So it does take place during the time of World War II. It's a German circus. So they do travel around to a couple different places, but Noah and her baby are Jewish, but the baby was also fathered by a Nazi soldier. So there's all of these different elements that come into play. I liked the circus elements as well, and I really enjoyed this. So that's another orphan book that's on my shelves. Now we have a stack of 8 that I have not yet read. And so I'm just going to kind of go through these and give you brief synopses of them. So I need to work on getting some stickers off here as well. But this one is The Orphan Sisters by Shirley Dixon. Dual timeline, 1940 and 1929. So pre-war period between the Great Wars, and then also 1940, which is right in the midst of World War II. Two young sisters abandoned by their mother at an orphanage embark on a heartbreaking and unforgettable journey. So we have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, Eddie and Dorothy, abandoned at an orphanage by their mother, never to see her again, no family to speak of. They are confused and heartbroken. And then in 1940, they're finally released from the orphanage, but discover that their country is in the grip of World War II. Air raids are happening. And then I believe that as they grow and get older, they discover that there are some secrets about their early childhood that they didn't really know. They kind of have idolized their mother, but maybe they shouldn't have. Yeah, so it sounds pretty good. We have The Paris Orphan by Natasha Lester. In this one, we follow an American photojournalist, like a model who goes over to be an American, to take photos of the war, and a soldier, an American soldier, who helps her in the midst of all the other soldiers kind of really giving her a hard time. And then a little orphan that these two come in contact with that changes their life forever. And then we do have a 2005 timeline as well, where somebody is curating some photographs of the wartime and discovers some information that she didn't know about her grandmother. A trope that is very common in a dual timeline story. But yeah, that sounds really good to me too. They all sound good, which is why I own them. Then we have one that doesn't have a dual timeline, The Secret Orphan by Glynis Peters. This one takes place in Coventry, England, when a young girl in 1940 is saved from the rubble of her home that gets bombed, and a farmer's daughter finds her in amidst the rubble and leaves town with her to protect her life and get away from where all the bombings are happening. But then she gets some help from a Canadian soldier, I believe, and a Canadian pilot. Amidst the destruction of war, an unlikely romance blossoms as they find a way to protect the child they have both grown to love and each other. So the love between an Englishwoman and a Canadian pilot, and the orphan that she found in a bombed out home. This next one is A Home for Unloved Orphans by Rachel Wesson. So this one takes place in Virginia in 1933. Yay, I'm a fan of a book in Virginia. Takes it during the time of the Great Depression. We follow Lauren, who has just been left destitute by her father in the middle of winter, not a penny to her name. She's kind of standing in lines, like doesn't know what she's going to do with herself. And everybody doesn't really know what they're going to do with themselves. The Depression is in full force in 1933. She ends up finding this orphanage in the countryside in Virginia, surrounded by mountains and beautiful trees, and makes her way to this orphanage and finds all of these orphans in desperate conditions. Nobody is really caring for them. The home is about to go under. It's on the brink of closure. All of these innocents may lose the roof over their heads. Can she save these children? What can she do to help save these children? I think that sounds really lovely. And I kind of like that it's not a wartime focused book. This one was gifted to me by Melinda, the wonderful Melinda, who randomly sends me boxes of books. But she writes little notes on them. She said, this one had orphan on the cover, so I didn't read the back. Maybe you'd like it. She knows orphan is a buzzword of mine. This is The Orphan of Florence by Jean Calogridis. In this one, we follow Julia, who's been an orphan all of her life, and she kind of pushes against the system in the home where she's being raised. She asks a lot of probing questions. She's not quite as submissive and quiet as they would like. So at one point, she's given an ultimatum when she turns 15, either become a nun or marry this man that she's not in love with. She chooses neither and escapes onto the streets of Florence, and we follow her from there. I think that sounds really cool. Really cool. Then we have The Lost Orphan by Stacey Halls. Yeah, I remember this one. So in this one, it takes place in London, 1754. Young Clara does not have the means to care for her child. She puts her into a foundling home. And then 6 years later goes back to claim her daughter, only to find she's not there. And they tell her that someone came only a year after she left her there and took her. So claiming to be her or something, I'm not sure. So her daughter is now missing, and she is determined to go find her. It takes place in Georgian London, explores families and secrets, class and power, and how the pull of motherhood cuts across them all. I think that sounds super interesting. This was my first Pango purchase, The Orphan Song by Lauren Kate. And honestly, I didn't even look what it was about. I just knew it had orphan in the title. This is what I do. And song, which implies that there's going to be something about music. And so that's always an appeal to me as well. This one takes place in Venice in 1736. Violetta and Mino have been friends, and they live at the Hospital of the Incurables. And they form a really strong connection. They play music together on the roof, but one day Violetta is discovered because of her beautiful singing voice and invited to become a part of this special group. She must sign an oath never to sing beyond the church's doors to be in this elite group of singers. After a declaration of love ends in heartbreak, Mino flees the Incurables in search of his family. Known as the City of Masks, Venice is full of secrets, and Mino is certain one will lead to his long-lost mother. So we follow both of these. Violetta as she potentially joins this elite singing musical group, and then Mino as he looks for his family. So that's a pretty cool time period, 1700s Venice. Back to World War II, we have Orphan Monster Spy by Matt Killeen. And this does take place in World War II, Germany, 1939. After her mother is shot at a checkpoint, 15-year-old Sarah finds herself on the run from a government that wants to see her, along with every other Jew, dead. Then she meets a mysterious man who needs her to pull off a spy mission he cannot attempt on his own. Infiltrate a boarding school attended by the daughters of Nazis' top brass. Befriend the girl whose father is a high-ranking scientist, and find the blueprints to a bomb that could destroy the cities of Western Europe. That sounds so good. With years of training from her actress mother in the art of impersonation, she thinks she's ready, but nothing prepares her for the cutthroat schoolmates, and soon she's embroiled in a battle for survival unlike any she's ever imagined, and fighting to hold on to her true self. So this is going to take place in World War II, which I love. It's going to take place at a boarding school, have spies, and it just sounds like it's going to be so cool. So there we have it. These are all the books on my shelves that have the word orphan in them. Have you read any of these in particular? Any of the ones that I've not yet read? Once again, here they are. Oh, these are not all the books that have orphans in them. They're just ones that have orphan in the title. Yikes, that was a close call. There we go. So there are the ones that I have not yet read. And then here's the ones that I have read. Do you like my hair flying in the wind? I have a fan on me right now because it's so hot in here. Yay! Let's talk about orphan books. Do you know of any other orphan books? Do you know of any other books with orphan in the title that I don't have? That I need to keep an eye out for? That I need to add to my wish list or my to-read list? Let me know. I love a book that talks about an orphan. I don't know why that is, but it's a buzzword for me. I definitely enjoy them. Let's chat down in the comments below if you know of any other orphan books, or what you think about any of these books. If you've read any of them and need me to up my game and start reading them, let me know. Let's chat down below. That's it for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you in another video very soon. Bye.